What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Duran Duran, and we're going back to their 2015 album Paper Gods, though once again we're going for a bonus tune, which is not on my version of the album. Once again, shout out to the artwork. I do love the sort of, nod to their previous albums, but also, done with a sticker format, which, I don't know, I still think it sort of fits with the general concept of Paper Gods in terms of the idea of building up something that is, symbolic or representative as a sort of icon that is then viewed with either reverence or disdain, depending on who you are and so on. Nevertheless, I do very much enjoy the references to their earlier albums. So yeah, we're going to listen to a tune called As Seen from a Distance. This is the last bonus tune from this album, so in a sense we'll be putting this album to bed completely. So in a way, I'm sad to see it go. I really love this album, and I have to say, the three albums, from the decade essentially, running the period from All You Need Is Now to Future Past, and with Paper Gods in between. It's a really rich period for the band, as I've come to see, and not that any other period has been less so, although, maybe some of you will think so. I get that. Again, the different configurations of the group at different times, I completely appreciate that, but yeah, I feel like they've just been in a really rich vein of form and creativity for over a decade now, after already at that point having 30 years of hits and charting singles and international tours and so on, up to that point. So not only does it show that they still have it, but it shows that 30 years into their career, and with the idea of All You Need Is Now, they've continued to put out amazing music that, if they just put out those three albums, if somehow they started their musical careers much later than they actually did, it would already be a stellar catalog for any group. So that really does stand out to me, the quality of these three albums. But yeah, we're going to listen to As Seen from a Distance. Obviously, it relates to perception, most literally optical, but seeing something could relate to sort of, perception about emotions or psychology as perceived from the outside. Though obviously there's the Jungian thing of there's what you know about yourself that maybe other people don't, but there's also the sides to you that you can't really perceive because you are yourself and you're in your body. Whereas other people may be able to detect them, so that they're different facets to people. But again, I think seeing could be manifested more metaphorically, in terms of the way that you perceive interactions, not necessarily physical, but again, psychological and emotional. But saying that seeing from a distance, as seen from a distance, there is a suggestion or an implication that there's a lack of clarity, a lack of precision in what you are seeing, and perhaps once you get closer, if proximity becomes greater, then ultimately your any ambiguities or confusion about what you're witnessing might vanish. Although perhaps at that point it'll either confirm your expectations or your sketch of an understanding from a distance, or perhaps it'll disconfirm it. It'll ultimately prove to be something entirely different. So yeah, out of the gate, I'm thinking about perception and how it might actually be skewed based on a distance between people, say. And again, it could be emotional distance, or maybe it could literally be a physical distance where I in my life, not to dive too deeply into a subjective tangent, but in my life there was a period where I had a long distance relationship. Now, it wasn't crazy long distance. It was a girlfriend living in San Diego. I was up in Orange County. It's like a 2-hour drive. So it's not like, oh hey, you wanted to just go get lunch real quick. We couldn't really have that type of relationship anymore. And so we made it work, but I will absolutely say that over time, my ability to assess exactly where we stood in the relationship, or where I stood in the relationship, and what she was kind of thinking on a day-to-day basis, not that I claim to necessarily understand any other human being, what they're thinking day to day, and I wouldn't expect anyone else to understand the crazy hijinks going on up in here. But again, it became clear to me that over time, one of the real challenges of a long distance relationship, quite apart from the logistical difficulties, is a sort of like blurring of the nature of the relationship, and exactly like where are we, and are we still good, and I don't talk to you every night is like, and not to say that we didn't talk, we talked a lot, of course, but like we had lived together before, so then it's like, you go from a state of like, every night you kind of just, go to sleep with like talking to each other for a little bit first and just sort of unpacking your day and so on. And then you jump ahead where it's like, yeah, I talked to you on the phone for a little bit, but then, we'll go like 8, 10 hours, 12 hours before we talk again. And, we're going through everyday lives. And it did feel much blurrier, much more ambiguous. Now, again, this might have nothing to do with the song whatsoever. But yeah, the idea of perception being less clear and more problematic at great distance, I think is, a very valid one on a number of different levels. So let's get to it. This is Duran Duran, As Seen from a Distance, a bonus track for their 2015 album Paper Gods. Psychedelic opening. Hello. I don't know what I expected, but when it like got into this groove, it was like, whoa, not that. I like it though. I like the sort of deep kind of bass groove of it. Yeah. Got some low end grit to it, some drag. I feel like I'll wait till after. Oh, listen to the bass. And I like his like affected vocal, it's sort of washed out. The synth bass is crazy. It's like charcoal. Deep pictures. Violin line in there? That was golden. This is awesome. The snare was nice there for that run. And back to these cool psychedelic sort of organ chords. Synth pad to go with that stuff. That bass riff. But honestly, that violin. Snarl at the end. Oh, it's like the charcoal bass like slowly congealed and came to a stop. Yeah, that was brilliant, and I love the sort of eccentric, charismatic end to the tune. But no, seriously, that was cool. It obviously had a dance feel to it. But I wouldn't, I would say the thing that I was laughing about when I was reacting, I was thinking there's been a couple times, I'm not trying to call you out, Ron, but there's been a couple of their more dancey tunes where Ron is kind of like, yeah, it's just a little too much like disco. To me, that's more house than disco. I definitely hear that as kind of like a groovy, kind of deep, kind of progressive house more than I hear disco there. So feel free to disagree. Again, not only my lyrical analyses, but my sonic impressions are, of course, not definitive in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, to me, the vibe I got there was like groovy, like progressive house more. Although again, with like some deep grinding low end. So yeah, like I thought that was cool. I really enjoyed the sonics of it. Again, lyrically, I'd have to hear that a few more times. I was definitely focusing more on the sonics, so that one, like thematically, I will take a few more rinses before perhaps the ideas will seep into my brain. But do shout it out if you got an angle. Yeah, that was very cool. And again, it sort of saddens me that we get to the end of Paper Gods. Just a brilliant album right out of the gate. And again, it's another one like All You Need Is Now, where you start with the title tune, and it's such an awesome, like, fantastic way to start the album. That it really sort of set the tone for what turned out to be a brilliant album. So again, shout out to them for this album specifically. Shout out to them for making 3 awesome albums of studio material in the last decade, after again already doing excellent albums and so many different styles and genres for 30 years before that. It's just unbelievable. So yeah, as I go through these albums, not only do I come to a new appreciation for their variety especially, but also their quality, both recorded and live. But I really get more and more of a sense of like the special band they are, because again, you could start their catalog with All You Need Is Now, and if those were their 3 albums, it'd be like, wow, this band Duran Duran is really something. And it's like, oh, by the way, there's all this other catalog before that. So yeah, shout out to them once again. Shout out to those of you, Seb and Izzy and Philip. A number of you have helped me access tunes, including all the bonus tunes on this album. I really appreciate you, and the fact that people are sort of, looking out for me in terms of how I go through these albums and just kind of making sure I have the right information, even though I apologize again, Izzy, there's been a couple times where, like, I get excited when he sends me tunes and I didn't quite read everything carefully, so that's on me. But again, shout out to all of you who have sort of expanded this musical journey beyond what it otherwise might be already. And even though, some of these albums that I now have access to, I'm going to start reacting to them through the digital format. And again, I'm very appreciative for that. But make no mistake, I plan on getting most, if not all, of these albums in physical format. Now that I've gone on this journey, it's such a wonderful thing. Like I mentioned before, I started these reactions with acid techno and acid trance. And in those contexts, I'm talking about, tunes and records I've had for 25 years, 27 years, and, I love and listen to thousands of times. And I viewed the reactions as, because I do physical media, it's going to be more about me talking about tunes I know, and maybe there'll be some people who do know them also, but there'll probably be a lot of people who've never heard this track or that track. And so I thought it would be more me, like, conveying information and saying, hey, look how cool this is, and here's some other stuff you might want to know about it. But as it turns out, there's an ocean of information coming back. I was going to say tsunami, and then that sounded like very dark imagery. It's like, oh wow, look out. But no, like, there's honestly just been a deluge, we'll say, of information coming the other way, and support and appreciation. A number of you saying, hey, I like the way you do the videos, when I've gotten a little self-conscious here and there. About what they might look like or sound like, and whether I should stop the tune, or just maybe not comment during the track. So whether it's supporting me in terms of just giving me positive feedback, or making suggestions, or giving me access to material that I don't yet have in physical format, I massively appreciate you all. So thank you for everyone who's made this journey, again, above and beyond what it would already be. I really do appreciate you, and also everyone else who's just watching and commenting. I appreciate everyone here. So yeah, let me know what you think. Other than that, I will see you next time. Peace.